demo build process on Apache on Linux. So this is a build process. If you recall, maybe a month ago or 2 months ago, when we were actually in the month of February, a long time ago, and in the month of February, I was telling you that when everything is covered on the book and additional materials, I may also cover build process, how you build like a Apache web server and how you do configuration within it, and some of those stuff, what is make utilities that are coming. 1 second, I need to close the door. My neighbors cleaning the yard. So basically, in Unix operating system, from time to time, you're going to work with web servers, and then you need to understand at least one web server. There's a lot of web servers on Unix. One of them is Apache web server that is used the most everywhere. It's an open source community. Apache Jakarta. Another one is Tomcat. Another one is Apache is also called HTTPD for Hypertext Transfer Protocol daemon. And then there's Tomcat, there's iPlanet, which was written by Sun Microsystem. There was Netscape, the old version, iPlanet. Those are no longer used. The majority of the web servers are either using Apache, Tomcat, or some sort of mod JK, mod SSL, and other stuff, and other utilities that are kind of like in-house built. For example, JBoss. JBoss is something that I used extensively, as well as Apache. JBoss was built by Red Hat. And then there's QLogic. QLogic was a company that was doing web services, and then that company was bought by Oracle. A lot of the software that nowadays you could use on the Oracle web services is used under QLogic. IBM also uses QLogic. IBM also uses WebSphere for build of a process. But every company that I work with and every company that I know, at least 60 or 70% of the companies are using Apache for their web server. First of all, it is open source. The name comes out as a result of building one patch at a time, and then say Apache. Every time was a patch to do something, and then they call it Apache. And then that is throughout the website is, let's see, the website is right here on the URL link, http://d.apache.org. And then it's really cool if you go to the actual website, it's .org, and then current version is 2.4, but you can see that Apache has a lot of web servers for Unix, for Linux, for Windows, for Mac, everything that you can get. You can get the binaries as well as the source files. And sometimes when you build the process, you need a compiler in order to build it from scratch. So if you have to download the source code, which I'm going to show you tonight, if you have to download the source code and build it from source code, then it requires make, it requires LD, it requires AS. Make is for the actually build process. I'll explain how make works. And then there's a configure that comes with the build process. There's LD for loader that actually loaded at the compile time. When it gets at runtime, it gets executed, and the loader is gonna load the object files, the shared objects with the binary together, and then it gets executed. And then there's AS for assembler, and then there's a CC for C compiler, and GCC for GNU C compiler. There's all kind of software is needed in order to build the process. And there are times that when you download the source code, you have to have build more dependencies. When you have to build dependencies, like for example, let's say you download mod.jk with it, or Jakarta or something else with it, and then you have to have the source code of those ones. Otherwise, your build process fails. And then, like you can see here, under related project that has Apache Traffic Server, Apache Traffic Control, Tomcat, APR, ModPerl. APR, ModPerl, and other ones are part of Apache build, like APR util, or main ones that normally comes with a source code. If it doesn't, you have to build those ones as well with it to get it. ModSSL is another one. ModJK is another one. JK is for Jakarta. Tomcat is using that one. So a lot of web servers are out there, and then Apache is one of the open source that I will teach you tonight how to build Apache from a package, and how you could just run it and how to configure it. The configuration is also a lot of directives that are there. I'll explain each one of them. So let's go through the yum here commands. So you will be learning yum systemctl that you know. App, this is for Ubuntu. We are not going to do that one. And instead, we're going to do yum. We could do that one on another platform, like the one that we have. I have Ubuntu also here. Linux Mint and my Ubuntu. We could do that one as well. So this one is by Linux, but the process is the same. Once you learn it in one environment, it is the same on the other environment. I don't know if I ever showed you guys how to capture your information on Unix command line, and it's something called script. I'll show you that one, how to do that one as well when we build the process. So we can see if something left off, you can start on again by where you left off from it next time. Sometimes your build process may take longer than the time allows for it. For example, in the class, if I'm just doing it until 8 o'clock, it may not finish to do the build, but then I can capture it and then I can finish it with another time. But the idea is that how you make it, I'll show that one so you understand how to do it. I'm gonna go to here and the args directory. I am here. Remember last week, actually Tuesday, I wrote a cron job, and the cron job changed the permissions of all these ones and created the tarballs of that one, also under the my backup there. If I go here and then look at my main one, my back, that is the tarball that we did it from our cron job. And the cron job is running as root, so, and that's the ownership of it is showing root. And then this is the backup of everything that was created with targ and zip file. And now I'm on this directory, sorry. I'm on this directory, and then I want to just cd to c computer science 018, and I'm going to make a directory called Apache. I could call it Apache 2.4 or whatever, doesn't matter. I'm just going to call it Apache. So I go to Apache directory here, and then here I'm just going to start a script. In order to start a script, say script apache-info.txt. If I just did this directory, when I do this one, a script from this point on, whatever I type in, if I just say uname -a, host name, date, and then I exit out. As soon as I exit out, it finished this Apache info. Now, if I look at the Apache info.txt, it captured all the information that I just typed in. So it's a good way to just, whatever you do, you record it, and then later on you could just post it on Canvas, or you could read it as input for yourself and everything. So, and that's a script. On Windows, this command is on PowerShell called start-transcript. And then you have to, instead of typing exit, you have to do stop-transcript. So this is good to capture what you're doing for log purpose. And then everything that you do. Now, if I just want to use the same file again and append to it, I could do, if I just want to delete it, I could just give it a new name, RM, and then use that name again. But if I want to append to it, I could just say script -a for append, apache-info.txt. Now it is there as that file, and then new information will be appended. So at this time, if I just want to do yum search HTTPD for Apache daemon, that's the binary that gets installed. There's another one called Apache CTL for Apache control that also gets, these two gets installed on the bin directory. There's a lot of configuration. I'll show you all of them. So if I just search for it, and then notice there's a development version right here. That's the one that I want to install. And so if I go back to this page, it says do install HTTPD. And it doesn't say devel or anything. So if I just do the same thing that the documentation says, because it's going to just find HTTPD, this one, x86-664, and that's Apache server. Then I could just add on to these additional modules if I want to do it, but it's not necessary if you are not doing more modules like modjk and then APR and other stuff and development packages. You don't need to. But let's just get the first one. And I'm running it as this. So I'm going to run it to see if I can do it without sudo and install it on my local path here. I could just say this, but because this one, the path is actually going to install on etc Apache and var Apache and user Apache. Those kind of the directories are not going to be allowed by running it as regular user. So let's see if the documentation says installing this on Linux server. It does not say actually that go ahead become root, but I'll run it first with that, see if it does require any privilege mode. So yum install and then HTTPD. Since we already checked it, they say you need to be root to perform this command. So their documentation is a little bit off, and obviously when you're installing it on a server, you need root access. So I'm going to become root, and I could just do sudo one command and then yum install HTTPD. That way I don't have to get the prompt back. I mean, I don't have to have that privilege. But notice that every one of these commands that I'm doing, enable it. This one is going to make it to say after a reboot, it has to start with systemctl. And honestly, they have already the sudo in front of it. So, and they didn't say that they become root, but they have sudo. So their documentation is accurate. I take that one back. I didn't see the word sudo in front of it. But you could do sudo yum install HTTPD, but then you have to type it in 3 times sudo. Rather than doing that one, you're going to do sudo su dash su one time. So I'm not going to just change my profile. I'm going to stay with that, whatever directory I am, by doing sudo su. Now I'm on the same directory. I'm going to say yum install HTTPD. I don't need to put sudo in front of it because I'm already with privilege mode. So now it's gonna, because I didn't say dash Y for yes, it's gonna prompt me. It says you want to install this HTTP x64 that with in tools, two of them together. I say yes, and then it's gonna go through the installation. So this is installed. Now it says the dependencies are met and this one is there. So now if I say RPM minus QA and then grep for minus I for HTTPD for both of them, see which package are showing on my system. These are the two that are there. I could just say RPM minus QA and then put HTTP here in front of it and see if that shows it as well. Because whatever the rest of the name is going to QA for a query. But then this other one has dash tools. It did not find it that way. So if I just say a dash 2 or dash something, and let's say if that one picks it up with as much that one information, that makes it more unique and it doesn't find it. So dash tools, it might not find it, but might find it because of that. But if I just give exact name, definitely it's gonna find. So even dash tools, because that makes it more unique, it found it. And then another way you could do is if you just did it this way and get that information from it. So I could do the same thing with up arrow here and then say, well, read, and then I'm going to say RPM, let's say PKG for package. This is a package. So then I say, do this one, do. At this time, I say RPM minus QL for query of this one. And then query of that one, $, and then put PKG, and then done. At this time, it's gonna go really fast, but it's gonna list both of them with all the files that are there. Everything with the tools and 2.4 is gonna list it. The list is gonna go really fast when it does display. And so you can see that it displayed all the packages that were installed. And if you're interested to see where the default directories are, and this is how you get it. So user is one, and then etc is there, and var is there. So etc httpd, as you can see, is this conf directory, and then conf.d. Conf is the configuration of a directory, which is httpd.conf file, and conf.d is that configuration for secure socket layer ssl.conf file and other related daemons configuration. So their modules are all the modules that was installed as binary with it. And there's httpd.conf file and the conf, like I was telling you. The log is important. Every web server has to have a log. There's a file called access.log and error log. All of those ones I'll discuss as well. So the modules directory contains all the modules that are get it, like mod SSL, mod JK, and everything else. And then run is that process that starts when it runs it. It has a process ID and it contains that one. With the process that you're actually doing it, you do Apache CTL, start, stop, status, all those commands, they check on the PID of the process. Log rotation to rotate the log. Sysconfig, HTTPD is actually the binary daemon for it, for the sysconfig directory. And then this HTTPD is also on the user bin directory. So as you can see, this list is going on with lib64. Lib is all the 32-bit, and lib64 is 64-bit mod. This is so for kind of shared object files. You can see mod auth, mod authentication, authorization, and then mod JK and everything else that there. Mod SSL, mod env for environment. A lot of these ones are good for CGI scripting. When you do on the web server, sometimes you write CGI the old days using Python or Perl or shell script or some C or C++, whatever code you do to get it. And CGI stand for Common Gateway Interface. And then the method that you use, either there are two methods, either post or get through the CGI scripting. There's of course delete and other stuff, but get and post are the main method of HTTP and CGI calls that you do it. And every web services that you use, whether you use the Tomcat, Modjik, Apache, or anything else, iPlanet, Netscape, whatever. Even with IIS is the web server for Windows, right? They are using these kind of things. If like you're doing CGI scripting, you would be using Perl programming or Python or PHP or some kind of shell scripting, bash scripting, anything you could do CGI scripting with it. And then on top of it, if you do advanced server pages, ASP on IIS, it will be equivalent to your GSP. On Java, you could do JSP, Java server pages, or sometimes you could do Java servlet. Java servlet are similar to Java containers. You're containerizing it through like Tomcat, similar to Tomcat. With a servlet, you have JSP as well as servlets that are running on it. JBoss is using a lot of servlet, and then iPlanet are using a lot of it. I use a lot of other applications that are web support using web services there that are using servlet for it. DocShare Xerox is one of the product that it is extensively using it. There's a lot of stuff there out there that everybody's using some mechanism of web services. So right here you can see these icons are basically, some of them they need to be just commented out because for security reasons you don't want to just have all these icons just be available on the public. And then there are files that auto and icon something.conf file in the directory. I'll show you if you want. And that one actually has these files that if you don't comment it out, it's not a big deal. But sometimes people, they just say, well, it exposes what version of Apache you're running based on these details of these icons that are out there. Let's see what else you have on this directory. No index, CSS, and then the user share. This www directory is where the web server is actually serving the htdocs. They call it document root. That one is there. And under the user, let me just do this. So if I just do this and then say grep pipe grep minus I user, and then that will just only show the user, like these ones. Apache CTL would be part of one of them, HTTPD would be another one, and all that information. You can see this is a bigger list for the /user share. Those are all documentation on the share. user lib 64 HTTPD. Okay, so I need to show you, for example, now it is installed. I'm going to say systemctl status HTTPD. Show me the status of systemctl. I typed something wrong there, systemctl. Status HTTPD. Okay, now it's correct. And then HTTPD, the process is not running. So I'm going to do a systemctl start HTTPD. Again, systemctl is just going to start it, but I don't have to enable it. If I want to just enable it to make sure that system next time at boot time, it is up and running as soon as I log into the machine, Apache is running, then I need to do that. Let me just show you the status again. Now it shows that Apache is running. And notice that user sban HTTPD is the daemon that is running for it. So if I just want to enable it, I say systemctl enable HTTPD. That will just put these two directories for it and the files, and then it creates a file called http.service. So if I just want to see the content of this file, I can either go and cat it, or I could just say systemctl cat, systemctl cat, and then HTTPD. That would also, whether I type in service or no service, is still going to find it because the extension by default is assumed. But here is the where that httpd.surface is. And then the way it does is basically it runs this HTTPD with these options. And then -D foreground. It's foregrounded, it's running in the foreground. And then the man pages, if you want to look at it, you could look at HTTPD section 8. And that's how you will see that information. This is Apache CTL status. If I just type in without this .service, it does the same thing. So you don't need to do the .service. And if I say the show, it shows me all the parameters that are there for it, for Apache. This is the details of those parameters, and that when the system starts, how Apache is going to have these default values for each one of them, and how it is going to start it and everything. So now if I just want to see, now I started, can I stop it? Yeah, so system, let me just show you one thing. ps-ef and grep httpd. Remember when we were talking about LSOF and other ones, the process, when it starts, the main process starts with a process ID of 7166, which has the parent process ID of 1. And that's the ownership as root. But inside the httpd.com file, there's some directive called Apache user, and then it says that the user is Apache, and then the group is also Apache. So let's say if I just say grep-i Apache on etc password, that installation actually added this entry saying that I have an Apache with user ID 48 and group ID 48. So grep-i Apache on etc group also has the same Apache group. So that is a perfect installation. It is started as root, the main process, and then the main process, which 7166, is the parent of all these other processes. So how do I know that this Apache is running? I see the process here saying that it's running. If I go to find out the log files, so if I just say ps-ef grep-i grep-i Apache, right here, you can see that these are my script, so you don't need to worry about those two lines. And the foreground is the same thing with HTTPD. The reason it shows up here because the owner of those ones are Apache. So I'm going to go to etc HTTPD, and then inside here I have the directories. There's conf directory, conf.d, and logs and modules that are important. So the conf directory is httpd.conf file is there. Conf directory. See httpd.conf file. This one, it has the directive of what port I'm listening, what is my default IP address, what host name, how am I going to check it, where's my htdoc documents and everything else is. All the configuration is here. There's also conf.d, which has the other configuration files if you're running virtual hosting. Sometimes on a web server, you're configuring multiple virtual hosts. So one might be the main one that it starts, then maybe 100 other virtual hosts that you could do that. I remember back in 2000, I was working for a web hosting company. We were providing SGI, IREX, Linux, Solaris, Windows, and Mac for our customers. There were about 120,000 customers. The majority of them were Windows, Linux, and Solaris, and then SGI, IREX. Not that many Mac, maybe a couple of Macs that they were just doing kind of, they had different packages. Some of the packages that they supported themselves, they would be like maybe running Mac on themselves or a Windows machine or a Linux. But the shared servers that we were doing it, one server was a SGI IREX, and that we only serve a couple of pages on each website. And those pages normally were small companies that they just wanted a web page to just display their shopping area where it is located, and people could just find the restaurant, so they could just look it up, say, oh, here's the address, let me go visit it and buy something. And those kind of services, I think on the one server we had this was a web hosting company, later on merged with interland.com, now it's called web.com in Atlanta. But at that time, I remember on the SGI server, we had 6,000 domain and 6,000 websites on one server, and each one of them, they were paying like $4 to $5 a month for their service. Even though it was a small page, but for a month, $4 nothing to them. And then the web server was, imagine 6,000 times 4, that's $24,000 per month, just making off of one server per month. And then if you have 10 of these servers, each one of them next to each other, and each one of them serve 25,000 customers, and then that adds up in a year. So the way we were doing it is on Solaris or SGI IREX or Linux, you could do IP multipathing. With IP multipathing, you could have configure the same interface to have multiple aliasing. Multiple aliasing that each alias have their own IP address. Even though you have one static IP address, but you can spawn off as many alias as of that one, so that same network interface is used. But because each page is only just to show a front-end store, that's not going to add any load on the system. That's not going to be anything. From time to time it hits it, and most people, they don't go to it. So that's very, very efficient to do IP multipathing, as well as providing some sort of virtual on the web server virtual hosting. And then this one, the user dir and other welcome.conf, all of these ones are addition configuration. If you enable it in this conf directory, then they could be enabled. It's a modest SSL and other stuff, the same thing. So let's go back, let's go here on the modules directory. Modules are right here, and then they're showing up their symbolic link to the modules directory of 64, because this machine is a 64-bit OS. So if I just go here and let's start one, let's see, I missed the dot here. Okay, these are a list of all the modules there. If you do more on this one, you could see all the modules that are listed. So some of the modules are built-in modules that as soon as you do Apache, it comes out, and some of them you have to actually build it afterward. And then when you build it afterward, it is not enabled by default on Apache configuration file. You have to enable it. So if I just say which HTTPD, here this is the binary file /sben HTTPD, and you can see this binary is the executable. So I could say sben HTTPD-L for list all the modules. I could see this one, and by default this one compiled modules is core and mod SO for shared object and HTTP core. So the core part of it is there. And then if I do uppercase L for long listing, it is a lot more. And then if I just, I'm interested in mod SSL, I could say pipe grep for my SSL. So let's say, what is the mod SSL related Apache? So this one, it does not have the that modules listed. If I say mod underscore core, actually let's just search for core. Yeah, you could see that there's a number of those modules. And when you go inside the conf directory, I'm right here, clear the screen. I'm here, and then inside the conf directory, there's a file called httpd.conf file. So if I look at the httpd.conf file, all my information is there, the directive and everything. So there's this one, if I look for the word listen, I type in uppercase, it will tell me that what IP address I'm listening to. And by default, when I say no IP address and just say port number 80, default of Apache installation, it started in HTTPD port 80. And then if you configure it to redirect it to 443 for secure port, you could do that. But here, this one, it just says basically, I'm running on port 80. And then the server root directory is etc HTTPD. And then there's another very important file, document root. Document root is another important directive, not file. Document root, it shows you the path where the web server HTTP docs and CGI bin and other ones are. So in this case, this one is under var www HTML. var www HTML and document root. Another important directive called CGI-bin. CGI-bin is the script aliases where your CGI binaries and other related binaries that you're going to serve a web server, like Python script or PHP script or any other Perl, any other bash, everything, you could just run it here. And then what else? So the directory is another important one. A lot of these permissions, what is allow, override, none, these options are how the system is going to check to support it. Like MIME type, if you want to do like .pl, .cgi, .perl, .z, .target, zip, all those MIME type that are supported are there. What else I need to show you maybe? Okay, actually and related to modules. So modules, all the modules, there's a syntax here, say load module. And then if you want to just say you have module called full modules and you want to load it, this is the syntax. You just uncomment it there. This is, it says include conf.modules.d. That means anything that is on the conf.d directory, it will include all of those files in there. And then notice that the user is Apache and group is Apache. If I just have this one commented out, or this account does not exist, when I start Apache, it will not work. So let me just show you one quick thing here. I'm going to just comment these two here, and then I'm just going to say system ctl stop httpd. Now I stopped it. If I do status, it is no longer running. And then I say, okay, yeah, it's no longer running. Go ahead and start it. It just right away failed. It says job HTTPD failed because a control process exited where code. So it tells you that if you want to get system details, system CTL status HTTPD, you could do that. But this is failing. It says this is failed, killed, cannot process, failed to start Apache. How do you know what failed there? So the way you know how it failed, you could do journal CTL -xe. This one, it tells you a little bit more details of what could have been the problem, and then you fix it. See if it says anything. It did not. And then you just put -l here for detail long listing. And if that one doesn't tell you, let's try -lv, or v is not an option. The L is the one that you want. So this one does not give you much. What I could do here is say, let me go to the logs directory. I know the logs directory has error logs and then access logs and other ones. So access logs meaning that nobody has accessed it yet. Error log, it says already has an error. And if I just say cut error log, it is not that big, so I'm going to cut it. And then it just says invalid argument could not permission to rewrite map mutex, check user and group directive right there. So that tells you in the Apache configuration, the user and group directive, those two are an issue. So let's say I fix that one. I go vi conf and then httpd.conf file. Sorry. Let me go to the directory where it is. Conf vi httpd.conf file. And then user, and then I just take this one out and fix it. But I could just, while I'm fixing this one, I'm going to do system ctl start httpd. It will start it. And then no problem, so I go status, it's up and running. Status, it's up and running. So how do I know what is my web server name there? So I go back on the http.conf file, and then there's a directive called server. Server, it says that the server root is actually pointing to the binaries directory, which is etc httpd, and then server admin is the user that who will get information on email. And when Apache is not running, if you go to the web server, it says contact your system administrator, then it's going to just provide this information. Whatever email address that you put, that will be put on that error log. So on the server side, when a web server is responding correctly, you get a 202, 200 or 202. And if it fails, it's you get a 404 error. And then server name. In this case, has no name here. You could call it whatever name you want, server name, and then it will start with that server name. And then and this thing, it says example.com. But if example.com is not in my local host, it will just be a problem. Since I'm just running here as port 80, port is listening to port 80, and there's no IP address of it. I could just put here localhost colon 80, or I could do this by itself, and then I'll try to use the localhost by default. And then server name, I'll show you afterward how to associate a server name, everything. Let me just see if we can reference it by the localhost name. So right here, I'm gonna open up here. I'm gonna do a Firefox. And so the Firefox should come up on this machine. And while that one is going on, I'm going to show you a little bit here. And so here on the default, if you didn't give any server name, any information, the IP address and the host name information is right here on the local host. If you didn't have a DNS that we're serving, I could just call it this, but then this is going to go to this IP address. I don't want it to just go randomly somewhere else. I'm not going to go. The one that I'm looking at is local host is this, 127.0.0.1, or the IP version 6::1, or just local host port 80. So if I just say here on the default one, and I say say http://localhost, and if I don't give any port, by default it says that you're listening to port 80. If there's something on port 80 that I'm listening, testing 1 2 3, it will just come up. So this is the Apache that we are running right now. It is index.html page. So if I just go here and then say port 80, it will also come up the same page because that is the port. But if I go listen to port 8080, for example, it's not going to come up. So that is not coming up. Let's just configure it to, instead of the default port, to go to port 8080. So you go back here on your command prompt here, and then vi httpd.com file, and port 80 is there. So all I need to do is just change this one to listen to port 8080 for that port, and systemctl restart httpd. I'm restarting it, and now let's see this one. I put port 8080. Does it come up? Yes. And so I know that the web server I'm serving is that one. And now if I just go to an index.html page here, index.html page, notice that it is saying page not found. So let's go to the Apache web server, see what is the page that it's supposed to be responding here. So if I look for grep document root for httpd.com file, you can see it is var.html. So if I go to var.html and then var.html, it has nothing there. Let's see what is going on. var.html does not live under the document root. Does not. Okay, so it is not living there. It says the documentation there. They must have moved it. Let me see what happened there. So etc httpd conf and then vi httpd.com file, document root. Okay, document the directory out of which I will server a document. By default, the requests are taken from this directory, but symbolic links or aliases may be point to the location. And so var www and var html, possible value to option this, option index symbolic link override. Okay, directory index is index.html. Okay, so you can see it has moved somewhere else, and let's see where it finds it. Document var www. Okay, var www is the directory. Here, this is HTML root is different. Actually, yeah, document root is here. HTML. Let me comment this line out. I'm gonna just temporarily change it to var www htdocs, and then htdocs. I'm going to go in there and then see var www, see what I have. HTML is this, and then it's empty. So vi I'm sorry, make dir htdocs. Just temporary, I want to create here htdocs, and then let's read, write, execute root Apache. This file should be honored by the user who runs Apache. So change directory htdocs, and I'm going to say vi index.html, and then create a HTML page. So I just say HTML here, head, and then inside the head I'm going to have title, and then say new page, doesn't matter what the title is, slash title, and then slash head. So every tag that you open in HTML, you have to close it the same way. So the head is there. Now I'm going to do a body, and then just say a paragraph. Let's say instead of a paragraph, I'm going to have a header one, and then say center it, and say new page, and then slash center, slash header one, and then slash body. That's simple, and then slash HTML. No, nothing fancy, like I'm not creating any table, anything extra. And then here I just add a paragraph and just line break, and then say paragraph, and say this is a simple page, and then save it, cut index.html. So if I just restart system, ctl restart httpd, and then on this directory htdocs, and then I have a file called index.html. Now I type in index.html here, that comes out. So the page that I'm serving now is index.html on port 80. I just configure it to work there that way. Now if I just do a shell script here, CGI, and the CGI has to be on the CGI directory here, not on the HTML. So CGI-bin, and then it's empty. So inside the CGI bin, you could say, let's say write a Python script, not Python, Bash script, vi, index dot, let's say env.cgi to print the env, /bang, again user ben env, and then see bash here, but then you say echo content type colon text /html, and then you are going to do 2 new line characters. That's kind of default required, and then you just say the env command, we could say my env is equal env, and then say echo $, my env, my env. So this echo may not work as simple as that. I may have to do within a loop for each of the query, get key pair value and print it. But let's go the simplest method to see if we can get it executed there. So this is a shell script and does not require semicolon there. I'm gonna do another echo here, just, I'm sorry, echo, and I'm gonna do a echo -e here, and let's run. So right here, if I just run the CGI, env.cgi, and it says permission denied, if I come here and I say CGI/CGI-bin, because it's not executable, it will not work here either. And you get internal server error. And if you look at the error logs, you will see, if you go to the error log, etc httpd, and then logs, the internal server error, tail error underscore log, you could see that it is just saying that env.cgi ended of a script output before headers. So some issue is there. Let's just fix it to make sure that it's executable first. So if I just go to var cgi-bin, and then say change mode 755 env.cgi, and then try to run it. See, while it's running, while you run it, you just are here already on the etc httpd logs for directory logs. What you want to do is say tail -f error.log. So this is when I hit the web server here, anything that happens here, if it responds, that's great, and you see that it did not error out. But notice that as I was telling you, it just had the information in a different format that is not as readable. So what you could do is go back to your bash script and then Control C out of it. You know it's not failing anymore. So I'm going to go to var cgi-bin binv.cgi, and then right here I could even create a same thing that I did over there on the HTML page. I could just say, let's say I'm going to add that one. So I'm going to say read this page that was there on the CGI, so htdocs index.html. I'm going to read that one. I already have that information, code reusability. So I just wrote this one. I don't want to rewrite it from scratch. I could just delete this information here and say, right here, I could say, So I'm doing that one, then I could say this information in a page, and while it is there, let's see if I could do a echo statement on these ones, HTML. I could do an echo statement on these ones, but I want to do a different ways. Rather than just the line by line, I could say echo and then do that one. I could say something like this. I could say echo um, this, and then I could say HTML doc. So this would print out the HTML doc page up to the point where I want to create a table. Inside my build, I want to create a table. So then I could just say HTML doc here and to end it, and then I start here again, say, actually, sorry, I don't need to do HTML. Right here, I'm going to do a table after the body. Okay, so you could start a table, say table, and then border, let's say, is equal 1 to make sure at least has some border. And then table row, you start with a table row. If you want to have header, you could do header. You say table header, and then column span is equal to, let's just get a just table row and columns. I don't want to do header and then detail of that one. You can add on to it afterward. So table border is equal this table row. So once we have a table row, inside table row, we want to do a table data. So we can have the variable for each one of them. Table data, and then you have one data. This, and then you say um, for I and $, my env. You could use I, you could say for a query, because that's a query string parameters. Each one of them is a key pair value for query, and my env. This is the whole thing is called query string, but I will show you afterward. For Q and $, this do, and then we're gonna do a echo inside here. We're gonna do so the table data has the information. We're gonna type in the data, $Q first, and then followed by a slash table data, close it, and then each one of them that starts is gonna close that. But before we do that one, actually, yeah, this information I'm gonna erase it from here only one time. And the table row should be there, but not table data. Table data, I'm going to add it right here. So right here, table row, and then table data. So this is what you're going to display, and then after that one, you're going to say slash table row. That is going to be done, and then done, and then at the end, you're going to do another of this command. Let me just copy this one, YY, and then right here, you're gonna undo, okay, the body. So this part is the pages there. You're gonna remove this line. I'm sorry, that's a slash body. Um, yeah, remove this line and then move it all the way here before that, and then HTML doc, and I need to do one of these. And then this would be table row, followed by slash table. You close that one, and this HTML doc, and why this. And this one you don't need to put code here. Once you use this symbol, this is HTML, it's gonna just understand it, say there. And where's my first one under the start here? HTML docs right there, HTML doc. So I want to just review it again to make sure this everything is okay. Here is okay, this is okay. This one gets the command, and here we're gonna display htdocs with these pages up to table row, and then go to a loop for querying $$myenv do, and each time you print it within a table row table data, you close it every time when you open the table row, and then at the end when you're done, you're gonna say close the first one that you started right here, and then I just need to put a slash here to close it, and sorry, right there, close it, and then everything else should be okay. So now I'm going to run it, and then if I run it here, env.cgi, it shows in the format that I want to see it. Let's see if it prints out here nice too. Okay, so it does it, but it does not just have a line break. So what I need to do is on the HTML code right here via the CGI, each line that you print it on this information, you do a line break. And run it again, nicely formatted. And you can see there's the query string, there's a information here is also called query string somewhere. Basically, whatever port, if I just go change the server port to 80, it's going to just show this 80. The user local host that I'm using is server name host. And then there's a lot of request URI. What is the name of the CGI script? Is there? The script name is there. And then connections and remote port and other stuff. So this is good. And now you have your bash script that it just generate a CGI script. And this is the query string. If there was anything passed to it, then it will execute that command there with query string is equal, command is equal. So you could do something like, for example, let's say here, you could say copy env.cgi, and then say, let's just do a simple command of system ctl status httpd. That one, just display that one to get a status of Apache running or not. So what you could do is here, copy your env.cgi and call systemctl or Apache status.cgi, vi Apache-status.cgi, sorry, vi Apache-status.cgi, and then right here, everything else is the same. Here, you just type in your command differently. So if you just say $, this is another way you could run your command, say system ctl status httpd. That would do the same thing as backtick. If it doesn't, then you can just use the backtick. Backtick is an old style of using it. It is not supported. I mean, it's supported with every shell, Bourne shell, Corn shell, Bash, Z shell. But this syntax that I'm doing is only supported in Bash. So if you're using a Bourne shell, it will not work. You have to use the backtick. So the default Unix developers, everything, the source code and were written in C, and then the shell script were written in Bourne shell. Nowadays, people write a lot of things in Bash and Z shells and everything else because there's a lot of more features added. So this one, if I just do that, it prints it. This one, I'm not gonna say this is a simple page. I just say the Apache web server status, and then here I say Apache status. And then here the title also should say Apache status rather than new page. Apache status. So if I just run that command, this command is going to show me in a format in the HTML page. I don't need to even modify it anything here, because basically everything else is going to be within rows and columns, and then some of the data does not make sense that it is going to show there, but let's just run it one time. I could modify it after. WQ, and then go to the web server here, say run the Apache-status.cgi. So here, this one says Apache services, and it is just showing you in one row the whole information. We don't need to do line break on each one of them, whatever it is. So if I go back to on the VI and then just where I have the break, right here, I could do this one, and then to be honest, I don't need in this one any table, anything. So I do HTML page, and then say, go ahead, print it out on the screen as it is. Notice that I have two double graded sign there. So table, I don't need to create a table, and right here I don't need to do anything, and that's it. So and again, this is gonna just be all in one line, I believe. Yeah, so all in one line, and then I could say do, and then and every line that I do, I print out the new line character here. Every information for QN, my variable. So the variable, if it is one line, it's going to print it that way. And run it again. Yeah. You just have to say maybe like a certain information there, you could just say print it out. Let's see what it is. I could get the output from this one here, system CTL system CTL status HTTPD. So it is printing out like that, and then I could say to print it out exactly like it is. So the new line character has to be interpreted there. You could do for checking for new line character. If I just send this one to a file T and VIT and then say set list status, these are all new lines and at the end of it. Let's try this one right here where we are just doing it. I'm going to do one line break here only. That is line break after every parameter might just do it, because that's what a new line is actually. Yeah, and that it is coming after each parameter in this case. What I could do is send that one to a file via Apache CTL Apache status.cgi. First do this command and then send this one to a file T. Let's say just a temporary file I created, and then right here where I just do this rather than printing it this way, and right here say cut T. You can even say -n for the number, lines number, and see how it works on there. Yeah, it prints the line number at each. Okay, so what I could do, and say via Apache CTL Apache and status.cgi, and the cut command here, cut, you could do something, say while read a line and do echo -e and then $ a line, and then /new line character, and then let's try also the break to see if the prints two of them. Then I'll take one of them out, and then done, and then <T. So we read from the line file T and then print it out on the screen. Yeah, exactly. That's what we wanted to do. So this is in a nice format now. So you could play around with it differently to do different things, and get it there and done. Notice that we did was install Apache. Once we install Apache, we configure it, and then there's a lot of redirection there. I'm not going to go through each one of them. Each one of these topics could be a class by itself. If I cover Apache in one class and show you how to build certain modules, how to configure them, it could take a semester or two, and just do for the Apache configuration. And then if you do CGI scripting with it, or HTML coding, and then addition web services information that you could interact with it, it's a lot of time consuming. But just these three commands, we went through a number of ways to just do that one. And if you do it on Linux CentOS, it's Yum as your friend, and if you do it on Ubuntu or Debian, it's apt as your friend. And the install is the same parameter that you pass on. And then the services, anything Red Hat 6, CentOS 6, Ubuntu older versions, they're using services. The newer version, they are using systemctl. Systemctl was introduced with Linux 7 and Red Hat 7 and on. With Ubuntu also, you have the version that we have 19 Linux Mint. That one is also using systemctl, systemd. Now, systemd is the system daemon. And then this is the part that after the break, when we come in, I could just install the source code and show you how to build it from the scratch when you don't have Apache. The reason you want to do it from source code because you want to build other modules integrated with it, and then sometimes you want to take out certain modules, sometimes you want to add on to it, sometimes you do it because your environment is more customized, you have to do it that way. Sometimes you just do it because you have more control on the web server based on your customization. And if you do it from the web services, by default, certain directories are already predetermined. For example, the etc httpd directory or user httpd directory and so on. Like for example, here there's a file, we looked at the httpd, and so now Apache is running. I could do httpd-l, and there's other parameter httpd-v for version. All of the details are here, so I could do that when the lowercase v show you the version and quits right here. And then there's Apache CTL.